So it's over to Dr. Kishore. You can start the session.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to this debate from the Telearogya and supported by Torrent in association with the Manthan series. And the topic is very apt. Everybody who is interested in psychiatry, psychiatric care, and public health issue are already aware that psychiatric care can never be without competent doctors, and we have to look at how these competent doctors are coming out from 500 plus medical colleges in India. And this topic has come to the purview of the discussion because the government of India came out with the new medical council, which is now called as National Commission for National Medical Commission, and it gave a direction on what should be the number of psychiatry faculty in the medical colleges across India. And they said that the medical college should have at least 2 teachers for every 100 students at the time of permission for the licensing of a medical college. And anybody who has been following the upcoming medical colleges in India, for example, in Karnataka, in last 6 months, 2 medical colleges have come up, both in Bangalore. One is by the PS and another is by Dayanand Sagar. So across India, there are numerous medical colleges. The question we have to look at is, what is the required number of teachers? Are there adequate in the medical colleges, or is there a need to improve the quality of the teachers, or should we work on quantity of the number of teachers in this institution? With this discussion, we have two eminent speakers who are going to debate for and against. Dr. Anil is going to debate for increasing the number of faculty in the medical colleges, and Dr. Rangnath Kulkarni is going to talk about why there should not be no further increase in the psychiatry faculty across the institution. So before we go into that, I want to put across the ground rules. Each speaker will talk for 5 minutes about their topic, and the audience will continuously put their thoughts about it in the chat box. At the end of each speaker, will ask the audience to vote for or raise questions. And again, after the first round, we'll ask each speaker to talk about the points raised by the other opponents. And finally, we'll take again the audience poll and then conclude. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Dr. Anil Kakunje first. Dr. Anil Kakunje is a professor and head at the Department of Psychiatry at Enepoya Medical College. He is known well across the field of psychiatry and psychiatry education. I would like to give his brief introduction. He joined as senior resident at the same department and he now heads, so he has a complete overview at the evolution of a faculty from SR to professor. He completed DPM from prestigious NIMHANS and MD Psychiatry from KMC Manipal, two prestigious institutions to his credit. Dr. Anil, he has authored 3 books, written couple of chapters in 5 or more books. His popular book, 1000 MCQs and 1555 plus MCQs in psychiatry, is very popular in undergraduate psychiatry training. He has more than 55 publications. He has received numerous grants. He is a guide for MD and PhD. He has received the prestigious Dr. Raghuram Award from Indian Psychiatry of Karnataka chapter for the year 2008. He has received the Young Psychiatrist Track Award from the World Association of Social Psychiatry for the year 2016. He has special interest on psychopharmacology, culture, and mental health. He has been at the panelist in state and South Zone on many issues related to psychiatry education. Dr. Anil, welcome to the program. I would like to now introduce Dr. Rangnath. Dr. Rangnath Kulkarni is currently serving as Associate Professor and Unit Head at the Department of Psychiatry Demands at Dharwad, which is a postgraduate training center also. He completed MD from JJM Medical College, Davangere in 2009, and he is a rank holder in Rajiv Gandhi University He later joined as assistant professor at the Department of Psychiatry at SDM College of Medical Science at Dharwad. From there, he moved to DMANS and he is serving as associate professor. He has 18 publications to his credit. He was secretary of Indian Psychiatry Society and he specializes in special interest in OCD, personality disorder, comorbidities, suicide, and life events. Dr. Rangnath Kulkarni, who comes from the government institution, Dr. Anil, who comes from a private institution. Both of these people will now enrich us about what should be the number of teachers in the medical colleges. So with this, I will request Dr. Anil Kakunche to talk about his part for the topic there should be increase in the psychiatry faculty in medical college. Over to Dr. Anil Kakunche.
Thank you, Dr. Kishore. It was very heartening to see you and listen to you. And I thank Torrent Pharma, the Telearogya team for having invited me. Just give me a minute to start the screen share.
Yes, please. So I request the audience, you people, you can start conveying your for or against this topic, continuously chat in the chat box.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
It's visible. It's visible.
Yeah. Hope I am audible and clear.
Yeah.
I think Ranganath should listen to me very clearly. Yeah. So, a very good evening. The topic for me is there is a need for more psychiatry faculty in medical colleges. The title itself supports me. It says we need and it is for and we need more teachers. So I'll start with a disclaimer. The presentation is intended only for argument purpose on this day and is not targeted against any individual, department or institution. And the second point is most important. Dr. Ranganath is a very good friend of mine and shall remain one even during this presentation and after the event. So the whole process is only for the sake of argument and for the event. I'll start with a quote. It's the teacher that makes the difference, not the classroom. So just now, Kishore has said there are so many medical colleges coming, many private institutions starting colleges. Just look back, look at your college days, your school days. What do you remember first? You may be remembering your teachers, I'm sure, not the classroom desk or the drawing room or the board. So it is the teachers who make the difference. The greatest asset of any institution are its teachers. No doubt about that. So it is the teachers who make a big difference for the student's life. And ultimately, after 20 years down the line, when you look back, you remember your teachers, their classes, their teachings, and so on. So ultimately, it is teachers whom you have to strengthen to improve education and more so for medical education. Just look at the statistics. It is one small slide. About 7.5% of India's population suffer from some kind of mental disorder. You are looking at 125 million population. About 50% suffer from some have anxiety, depression at some part of their life. 20% of the mothers may have postpartum depression. 9 out of 10 Indians suffer from stress. About 20% of the elderly have depression. So you are looking at a huge population having a massive load of mental health problems, and you need to treat them, and you need doctors to treat them, and to make good doctors, you need teachers. So ultimately, the teachers we will have to strengthen to improve the statistics or improve the health at the ground level. Another slide on ground reality. What you're looking at is psychiatry is one subject, and there health sciences and humanities closely linked. One subject where we are involved with almost any department in a medical college, and you go to OBG department, when you are called, you go to pediatrics department, you go from medicine department to orthopedics department, one department which is involved in the entire hospital, the care. And the ICMR Global Burden Study of 2017 and the Health and Family Welfare Department says These are recent statistics. It says one among the 7 persons in our population need mental health care. And there are places where the treatment gap is almost 90%. So that is what we are looking at. Just have a look at the number of psychiatrists over the years. In 1980, there were around 1,000. In 2000, there were around 3,500. And in 2020, you have around 9,000. So it is steadily increasing, and it's a good sign. But what is the NMC or the MCA doing? They are reducing the number of psychiatry teachers. In fact, it should be the other way around. I'm literally surprised. We'll have to literally do a debate to actually impress upon people that we have to increase teachers. It has gone to that level. Do we actually need this? It is a common sense that teachers have to be increased to improve the mental health care at the ground level. Now, earlier it was MCI. Now the new medical commission. It looks like someone is taking commission to get all these things passed. 13th October, a new NMC document came. It says for 100 students MBBS college, you need just 2 teachers. 2 teachers. And you generally know in a department, one or the other person is always on leave. So who will manage the 100 students? Who will teach them? Now look at some controversial decision by the same NMC. It happened, the NMC came just about few months back, and look at the number of controversies they have created. Increased number of non-MBBS teachers. It's already 30% in many of the preclinical and paraclinical department. They want to increase it further to 50%. And they have also started vertical and horizontal integration of teaching. And without clinical knowledge, how can these students be taught? The second controversy is reduce the number of teachers. And already a lot of people are suffering, and there are youngsters who want to teach with a passion to teaching, but there are no openings. Another controversy which they have created is they pass resolution. The colleges need not have their own hospitals. Other problem is community health providers can practice medicine and have a bridge course. Again, one more controversy. Something new is coming is national exit exam. Things are not clear. They are telling starting from next year. And remember, all these things are opposed by IMA. I'm sure my opponent is also a member of IMA, and we are all opposing it. So that is where we stand. Look at what teachers are doing now. You manage OPD, you have inpatients, and remember, a PG department has around 7 specialty clinics, and few clinics. I myself wonder what we are actually supposed to do there. There are clinics like psychomotor clinic. There is a senile clinic. There is a memory clinic. There is a geriatric clinic. I don't know what is the difference between all these things. And out of the 6 OPD days, we have 7 special clinics. Who is going to manage this? And they have reduced the number of faculty from 5 to 2. You have to give ECTs. You'll have to manage therapies. And the MCA and NC guidelines has no post of psychologists to manage therapy, and they expect the doctors to do therapies. And remember, see the number of activities a teacher has to do. You'll have to do community work. You have to manage camp. You'll have to give disability certificates in a few government hospitals. I think Ranganath will know better. Core duties. You'll have to do teaching, undergraduate teaching, and also allied mental health. Also, you are asked to take classes for nursing people, MSW people, PSW, psychology, MPhil, and so on. You'll have to manage research. You have to attend conferences, CMEs. You'll have to improve the academic growth. And the new ADCOM module also has to be taken by psychiatrists. There are new CBME modules where horizontal and vertical integration, and you have to attend physiology and anatomy classes. Over that, you are made in charge for NAC, NABH, and medical education departments. I think Kishore will know better and will agree with me. There is a grievance cell, guidance cell, and psychiatrists are member of all these cells. And it has put literally our life into a big cell. You'll have to manage exam, paper setting. You'll have to be an external examiner, and absolutely no time to manage all these things. I am expected to attend all the academic programs and also do publications to have promotion. And there are only 2 teachers to manage the whole entire list. Can you just imagine this? Are we going in the reverse gear? So we should actually move forward. My feeling is we have started moving backwards with all these decisions. Medical colleges are increasing. Kishore just said the number, 500 colleges. Psychiatrists, almost 1,000 are coming every year. And each college is producing more than 4 or 5 psychiatrists. And where are we employing them? We are actually reducing the number of vacancies. And imagine a lot of stress-related problems are increasing. The current pandemic has caused a lot of problems, stress-related issues. Who is there to manage them? There are no teachers, and unless you teach the MBBS graduates, who is going to manage them? And IPS is trying hard to make MBBS a full-scale subject in the undergraduate training. Where are the teachers to teach them? So I think Ranganath is also a member and he's been secretary of many of these organizations. Our organization is trying hard to make it a subject. Without teachers, who will teach them and who is going to take exam? And we have been as psychiatrists teaching to manage stress. And if you see the list which I have provided, I am just listening to it, I am under severe stress. And a young undergraduate definitely will be under stress. So who will manage these teachers when they are under stress? IMA and IPS is running helplines that we will take care of your stress. I think we may need it. I may need it. So doctors are undergoing, the teachers are undergoing a lot of stress. And I think the teachers need to be increased a lot. Finally, coming to the end of my first round, I would like to say, I am sure Ranganath would say, if you can manage the 2 teachers, you can literally do the teaching. I will just give an example. A child may be having a full stomach eating 3 chapatis, but the child can manage even with 1 chapati. So we shouldn't be contented giving only 1 chapati to the child just because the child can survive. That is not the goal. We should have a good nourished child so that the child's growth is very good and can face the society and have good health. So we should give our full potential so that we have a full quorum of teachers so that the full potential is taken care of and not just manage with the basic minimum. Basic minimum is not the goal. We should have a very optimum and probably more than that is something, a standard which is more than the stipulated basic minimum to have a good future for our students and have a better society. Ultimately, when I become 60 or 70, I require a mental health evaluation. I need good doctors to treat me. I don't want someone who has not attended psychiatry to treat me. So that is how I will look at it. And I'm sure all of you will agree that there is a great need to increase the psychiatry teachers, and this 2-teacher rule is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
Here we go, and Dr. Anil has made a very strong point on why we need teachers. Right from his, he has brought our childhood days back and memories related to teacher. Then he has systematically taken about the numbers in the country, the need, and he has brought about role of IMA and issues associated with the new medical council. I think it's a fantastic point. Certainly, he has pulled the moderator also to think in those lines. Moderator will always try to be neutral and see what the opponent, Dr. Ranganath, has in mind to counter and argue for not the numbers, but whether the numbers which are already there in institution is adequate. Dr. Ranganath, the stage is for you.
Thank you, Kishore. Thank you, Dr. Anil, for making me a good friend of yours. I have been in the past, current, as well as in the future. Be assured for that. Thank you for Kishore. Thank you, Telearogya team, Dr. Vijay Abhishettar, coordinator, Dr. Mahesh Gowda for inviting me to speak against the statement. As well as I thank the Torrent for organizing this platform. Let me start with saying, could this be a Manamanthana debate rather than Manthana debate? Because Manthana could be anything, even there could be a Samudra Manthana. So here, let us go for Manamanthana and introspect ourselves. Are we doing justice to the subject, or are we showing just lip sympathy? Is time and tide high enough to think about the statement what is given in this topic? So with this, I start with the disclaimer that the content depicted here is as per the latest NMC guidelines released just yesterday to be finalized and gazetted shortly. So my friend has flashed the NMC guidelines of draft guidelines of 13th October 2020. I would like to put the 20th October 2020, the latest finalized after all the receiving the comments. which is finalized by the NMC and signed by Dr. R.K. Vats, the Secretary of NMC. The statement is in relation to need for more faculty strength. I stress upon need for more faculty strength in medical college. What is proposed in the minimum requirements of faculty strength as per the NMC, and it is with relation to the mental health. It is not with relation to the mental health power resources generation. So there is one mistake. It should have been without. The viewpoints of ghost faculty and private practice has been rampant since decades, not just years. And these are based on the existing reality in some of the medical colleges, which we see now and then in the media, mass media, as well as in the platform of NMC. Which goes in unsaid, it is there in UG as well as PG departments, and are not meant towards any person or college in particular from here on. As per the newly rejuvenated website of nmc.org.in, as on May 2020, there are 540 medical colleges, UG medical colleges, and 64 standalone PG institutes in India. NMC says its minimum requirements. Maximum has not been set. NMC cannot tailor needs based on the individual college, but needs to consider the spectrum and notify minimum requirements across India, across medical colleges. Most medical colleges OPD patients load is 20 to 50 in psychiatry. Few colleges experience more than 50 patients per day overload. But most colleges with more than 30 patients per day run PG department, I think so. On an average, there are 3 to 4 faculty in psychiatry department, whether they are on regular role or ghost role. Let me not speak about that. Whether they're doing full-time or part-time, let me not speak right now. This one is regarding the objectives which has been put forth for psychiatry training for undergraduates regarding the various competencies and integration which is there on the website, like ability to promote mental health, identify the recognized alcohol, substance, or other common mental disorders. Next coming is the UG teaching psychiatry is in the third professional MBBS part 1, third phase part 1, which consists of about 13 months. And here we are allotted to take the psychiatric classes. I'm saying theory classes. The doubling of teaching hours is not a ground. Earlier there were 20 hours per annum for final year third phase MBBS. Now it has been made to 40 hours. 40 hours, out of which 25 is teaching hours, 10 is tutorials or seminars or integrated teaching, and 5 hours is self-directed learning. The guidelines or protocols or how it is to be evaluated for self-directed learning is still in ambiguity. However, 25 classes for staff of 3 to 4 faculty in the department is not a huge enough. Considering the other departments like dermatology even have 30 classes, or ENT has 70 classes, ophthalmology has like that, there's various number of classes. So for psychiatry it has been made 40 classes, out of which 25 had to be taken, and 10 has to be presented by the UGs as a seminars or integrated teaching. So additional 2 weeks of clinical posting has been there, which was not there earlier in second MBBS. Earlier there was only in third MBBS part 1, 2 weeks of clinical posting into psychiatry was made. Now it has been made 4 weeks. 2 weeks in second MBBS, second phase MBBS, and 2 weeks in third part 1 MBBS. So that's the only change which has been there. Additional of another 20 hours in a year, and additional of 2 weeks of clinical posting in second MBBS. Let me speak about the staff requirements now on. Regarding university exam pattern, psychiatry has been there earlier for 5 marks, 3 marks, or 10 marks maximum. But the thing is, it is evaluated by physician. Now, the NMC says that out of the second general medicine paper, second paper of general medicine, 25% of the total theory of the general medicine should be for psychiatry, skin, and respiratory medicine, including tuberculosis. However, it doesn't mention about whether there is any Viva OSE with a small case of psychiatry in their final exam or in the practical exam. It is not mentioning anything about that. It's only in the theory, and this is also evaluated by physician and not a psychiatrist. So the burden for psychiatrists is not there in the evaluation here. Regarding internship posting, as per the recent NMC guidelines, which has been finalized after listening all the comments and flashed on the website of NMC on just yesterday, 28th October 2020, it says that 15 days of psychiatry is included along with the internship of general medicine, which is totally of 2 months. 15 days is psychiatry, which is as it was there earlier also. Out of which under 15 days can be taken elective posting out of 6 subjects, and which was there earlier also. So there is no additional burden of internship and monitoring those interns during the posting of psychiatry. 15 plus or minus at optional elective posting of 15 days. The objectives regarding psychiatric internship has been new, and it aims that the intern must perform or assist in diagnose and manage common psychiatric disorders, identify and manage psychological reactions, diagnose and manage behavioral disorders in medical and surgical patients. And he should be knowing, observing, preferably assisting at times in ECT administration and therapeutic counseling and follow-up. This can also be done when psychiatry internship posting has been done. They can also observe the ECT posting. Nothing much should be is for the ground to increase the psychiatry faculty here. So regarding motivating young minds, it's good that some UGs choose psychiatry as a PG subject, but the choice of PG does not depend upon the UG teacher entirely, but other factors too, like personal interest, willingness to choose psychiatry, inquisitiveness regarding learning psychiatry or the mind, and taking care of the mental health burden, perceived stigma by the UG himself, undergraduate himself, or his family members, whether to take or not, and most importantly also the earning potential of the subject. So usually most UGs, they choose on how much they can earn or how much the personal interest they have or willingness they have. For example, radiology or dermatology, the 2 subjects where most of the UGs or interns might have bunked, or even they have given the proxy attendance and taken the certificate in the internship that they have attended the radiology posting despite not doing so. Although not well attended by UGs, surprisingly during internship they are not attended, but still they are preferred, and radiology is the theme of all the subjects. Coming to the thing what I just said, on 20th October 2020, the draft which was flashed in the early late September or early October has been finalized and Dr. archivals, and it's ready for official gazette. Now coming to the NMC guidelines, these are minimum standards of OPD patients per day. What is the OPD patients load and bed occupancy for 100, 150, 200 and 250 MBPS. If you watch this, earlier MCI guidelines, there was also option for 50 MBBS students, MBBS seats colleges, which has been removed by the current NMC guidelines, and minimum students which has been mentioned is 100 MBBS students. So for 100 MBBS seats, OPD patients should be minimum 800 on an average daily per day. 150 MBBS students 1,200, 1,600 for 200 and 2,000 for 250. Anywhere, bed occupancy should be 75%. Even if we assume that maximum of 5% total daily OPD patients load will be there as a potential references or psychiatric OPD clients, then if you take that in 100 MBBS students cases out of 800 patients, I think maximum can be 40. Usually we find 10 or 20 referred or 5. At times the OPD is not there in the 100 MBBS because of lack of faculty coming to the medical colleges. So if for even if we take 5% of 800, faculty to serve will be 3, as noted in the NMC guidelines. That is a minimum 3, right? So here I would like to correct my friend, Dr. Anil, that he said minimum is 2. Sorry, no, I'll just give the proof that it is minimum is 3. It is the phase in which the MBBS permission, letter of permission, first renewal, second renewal, third renewal, fourth renewal, and the recognition. Through the phases, from initial 2, it has been made as 3 from the third renewal, that is for the 4th batch onwards. So if we take 3 faculty serving 40 patients, it is 13 patients per head. I think if you take any private practitioner, you'll be seeing at least 25 patients or 50 patients per day. So 13 patients per day per head faculty, if he sits from morning till evening, 9 to 4, should not be a burden for him, including the references.
Dr. Rangnath, you have 1 or 2 minutes more. We are touching 7:40.
Sure. I think I'll be given reasonable time. Thank you. For 280 patients, if we take, it is 20 patients per head. For 250 MBBS students, 100 patients per day, 25 patients per head. So further, if there is PG department, it still eases the burden. So here, psychiatry beds have been less. So I would like to focus, rather than the faculty strength, there should be increase in the number of beds given, so that in future, if they plan for a better infrastructure with 30 beds already there given for psychiatry, PG department can be made. So rather than 10, 20, 20, 30, it should be 30, 30, 30, 30, what I like to propose. Coming to the beds ratio and the faculty, 3 faculty can look over the 10 beds of patients, or 4 faculty can look over the IP patients of 20 or 30 patients. So here I would like to ask my friend to focus on the LOP. There are 2 students. First renewal, there are 3 faculty for 100 MBBS. It's not 2. So I would like to ask my friend to focus upon this. This is for 150. 150 MBBS seats. Again, there is 2 in the LOP, that is letter of permission, first batch. In first renewal, again, there is 3. So second renewal, there is 3. Third renewal, there are 4 faculty in the psychiatry department. Fifth renewal, there are 4. On recognition, also 4. For 200 and 250 MBBS seats, it is 4 right from the letter of permission. So there has not been any reduction in the strength of faculty whatsoever. For 100, it is 2 in the beginning, that is for the first batch. But from the first renewal itself, it is 3 till recognition and further. For 150 also, it is 2 in the letter of permission. Letter of permission, just the college has built and opened, and first batch has entered for anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So for first renewal of means, the students have come for pathology or microbiology and other subjects. So second batch, we need to take 2 weeks of clinical posting. There are 3 staff with associate professor made head. So with this, I would like to say that the recent guidelines yesterday, that it has included, which has been finalized by NMC, it has now included clinical psychologist, 1 clinical psychologist in psychiatric department, which was not there earlier even in the draft. Now it has been changed to 1 psychologist, 1 PSW. These are the ancillary staff which are there to be there in any department. Also, staff requirements provide that desirable 20% additional teaching faculty can be taken above the minimum prescribed, or aspirational colleges can take on 30% of more additional faculty than minimum required. So if need be, the college or the management can take decisions depending upon the load in the department, any additional faculty, or even the MSEP or NMC provides option of visiting faculty, which they have put the Gazette on 18th December 2019. What is the criteria of selection of visiting faculty? Who can be visiting faculty? At least 8 years of service. He can 8 years of experience after PG. He can be doing private practice. He can visit 4 hours in a week and take classes, take bedside clinics, right? But based upon the visiting faculty, they cannot be additional. They cannot be shown as a minimum requirement strength, and you cannot claim UGs or PGs based upon such visiting faculties. So regarding the visiting faculties, what MSA says, any medical college can appoint additional faculty members on part-time basis. And in case of institution is unable to provide full-time faculty beyond the minimum prescribed, the minimum visiting faculty to be appointed shall be at least 20% of the prescribed faculty for various intakes of MBBS students annually. So the qualifications of experience is as good as any other person being recruited. Upper age is 70 years. So visiting faculty, MCA guidelines 18th December. Visiting faculty could be such person as those working in private healthcare, non-NGOs, retired personnel who are interested in teaching, Preference in appointment shall be given to those who already served in faculty and got retired or DNV colleges. Scope of work is visiting faculty are assigned teaching responsibilities by the medical college. Each visiting faculty should conduct at least 4 sessions in a month, such as theory, small group discussions, integrated teaching, practicals, community-based sessions, or clinical bedside teaching sessions, with each session of not less than 3 hours duration. The visiting faculty shall not be involved in routine administrative work of the department and shall not replace the roles and responsibilities of full-time faculty in the department. So they are given honorarium and not the salary. I think my friend should understand that if we increase the minimum requirement of faculty in the department, there would be burden on the government as well as the private medical colleges in terms of giving salary at par with full-time faculty. So there can be visiting faculties which can be utilized or recruited based upon the need-based phenomena. So the details of both regular and visiting faculty are to be displayed on the website of the institution, and further the visiting faculty shall not be counted for faculty requirement. So this is what is there as per MCI, and with this I would like to rest and reboot later in the second round. Thank you, Kishore. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you, Dr. Rangnath. Dr. Rangnath has meticulously dissected the new medical council bill, and he has put forward that why do you want to increase the required faculty when you can consider visiting faculty? Otherwise, he has also said that there is no ceiling. If the medical college is generous, it can go beyond the minimum required faculty. He says that why we should not use clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers also into teaching. And from a government institution, Dr. Rangnath is paradoxically saying that there is no need for increase in the psychiatric faculty. And he has quoted the latest document from NMC. So now there is also a lot of opinion from the audience. Many have stood with Dr. Anil, saying that they support and there is a real need to enhance. Some of them have said that visiting faculty may not always be ready, they may not be always be there. Some of them are saying that whether we are legalizing ghost faculty if we allow visiting faculty. Some people convey that the teachers in the medical college are just enough, there is no further need to increase. They say that postgraduates should be stopped. So you reduce the postgraduates so that they don't sit for the faculty position. So Dr. Anil, you will have 2 minutes because we are already crossing 7:46. So you will have 2 minutes to talk for the point, and then Dr. Rangnath will counter it. Yeah.
This is what Ranganath has done. I think all of you know what I mean. It is beating around the bush. He's playing with numbers. He has shown a lot of papers, and his argument is not to the point. So one second. Yeah.
I'm waiting, Anil.
Yes. All of you just listen to this. What is Ghost's favorite dessert? So he is being screaming that faculty is enough. You take visiting faculty. As the word goes, visitors are always visitors. You cannot never count on them. His various arguments, minimum requirement is more than sufficient, and the people can take extra faculty. If I ask him, will he pay extra to his maid or driver? Just because you can pay more than what you need, no one will pay. No private medical college will pay extra money to any faculty to have an extra. They will try to extract maximum from the existing faculty They will make them work for 12 hours, 16 hours, burden them so much, but they will not take even one extra faculty. I don't think this is a valid point. My great teachers used to say, physicians were teaching psychiatry to them. I think that stage will come when psychiatrists are too burdened with all these things and we don't have faculty to teach. Earlier, there was no psychiatry internship. Now we have psychiatry internship, but who will teach them? People are busy managing only OPD. So he was proudly saying that you can have 3 faculty for 30 OPD. He's managing only OPD, our job. General job of a teacher includes, I have listed at least 20 items. And the stipulated criteria, what he mentions, is only to manage OPD. So who will do all other jobs? When I joined the medical college in 2008, we were 2 in the department. Now, in 2020, I am here to argue that 2 is not enough. So this is where we stand now. I have listened to Ranganath's the whole list of pages he has shown me. He is good in making Rangu. Ranga is colorful. He made it a lot of highlighted, a lot of colors and numbers in a lot of pages and documents. But then ultimately, something has to move on the ground. If I am on leave, who will manage the OPD? If there are only 2 people in the department, one person has gone as exam, one lady is on maternity leave, who will manage the patients? Who will do therapies? And all these optional things we cannot rely on. Optional people are always optional. So we'll have to do something concrete and work towards something for the better future and have a better future for our doctors. He has shown only documents. I will not rely on documents. I will rely only on hard evidence. Now he has talked about ghost faculty. We are having this webinar. People are sitting all corners of India. Use technology and remove ghost faculty. You have Aadhaar. For some time back, we had Aadhaar punching, and now that is gone. Why it has gone? I have no idea. But then someone has removed it. It possibly is the influence of the private management, because they don't want permanent faculty and reduce the money flow. So we have technology. I don't think ghost faculty is an issue at all if there is heart and the will to work forward and go forward. I'll go only by hard evidence. Sometime back, there was a deliberation in Rishikesh. So that was in the All India Institute in Rishikesh in 2019. It has been published in IJP also. It says that we all have to work hard. IPS has to work hard to see that things are streamlined. It has talked about the NMC guidelines, the competency-based curriculum where psychiatry has to be more involved. So it was published in the March and April IJP. This another article from the Indian Journal of Psychiatry where it says competency-based medical curriculum. There is very likely that unless we work hard and strongly and together, I mean, psychiatry will not be in one of the mainstream branches. So there is a great dearth of need for mental health professionals and to train young doctors in psychiatry. Otherwise, you will have a PhD doctor who will not be able to manage depression. This is one of my IJPM article. It was a panel discussion in the South Zone conference in 2018. We had various eminent people from all the southern states. You can see Varghese Punnos, Dr. Ashok, who is one of the foremost of, one of the pillars of psychiatry training research. You have Dr. Kannan from Tamil Nadu and various people from various corners. Dr. Varghese Punno says, MCA and all, now the NMC is more interested in number of square feet of your room, and they are more interested in the museum in the department. Who is bothered about museum in psychiatry? So we should be more concerned about say psychiatry teachers, increase the number of teachers, have quality training, take more psychiatry classes, increase psychiatry training classes, internship programs. So these things should be given more importance rather than material things like ICT, the square feet of your room, the number of special clinics, and what is more important should be concentrated. Clinical psychologist has come into NMC guideline, as Ranganath says. It came only 2 days back. Does it take so many years just to think that we need a psychologist in the department? So it is really appalling to listen to all these things. One more article, that the recent COVID pandemic, I think all of you agree that the importance of mental health has increased, and there is great need to train undergraduates on mental health. Now, public opinion, all of you would agree that there has been great discussion and many seniors have expressed opinion that psychiatry training has to be increased, improved, and we need to have more teachers. And I am giving evidence. Where is Ranganath's evidence? He has shown only papers. And we are exporting psychiatrists to US, Australia, and UK and decreasing our requirement. Can you just imagine? And we are arguing on that. And I am sure I agree with Ranganath on one thing, that there is a problem and we need to take corrective steps to address the problem. But then the rules and regulations should not be lowered, and we should improve the standards and have more better doctors. Thank you.
So for a change, Dr. Anil has moved with a lot of documents now showing where is the need, and he has shown from IJP to many journals what that they have been producing. He has also raised serious concerns about visiting faculty and ghost faculty. There is a lot of discussion in the chat box that the ghost faculty might be coming down, but we don't know who is this visiting faculty will be. And he has also raised a pertinent question about whether our job is all about patient care when we are so less in number, where our job should have been focusing on MBBS doctors who are going to be the pillars of primary health care. So just one more minute, Dr. Ranganath, before we take further on this, you can counter Dr. Anil. Yeah.
Are we going for audience poll here?
Audience are commenting, Ranganath.
Can I start my presentation?
Yeah. Please, you will have maximum 2 minutes before we allow each of you to conclude. Yeah.
Regarding my friend tried to pose with ice creams, cats, bush, beating everywhere, but I think he did not beat well enough. I also went through a while ago through the comments posted by the audience there. Visiting faculty are not substitutes for the minimum faculty which is already provided by the MCI. They are extra, additional to whatever is proposed by the MCI to the minimum standards or minimum requirement for the department. More so, these visiting faculties are those psychiatrists of repute who are already taught in the colleges, or who are already have gone abroad and taught there and want to come here and settle in the college as a visiting faculty, right? So these are not those persons who are just have been doing private practice and just coming there. So these are selected based upon the appointment is done based upon the selection committee, like dean, principal, medical colleges. And my friend, I'm not posing any documents without any gazetted document. Only the ungazetted or to be gazetted document is what has been done yesterday. And that is not in my hand to gazette because it's the government issue. I remember the slide which you posed in the beginning. It's teachers that make difference. I say it's not the number of teachers, but the quality and the quality time they spend with the students. It should be a quality medical education rather than just quantity. Regarding statistics, what my friend also showed lot of numbers. It's not merely met by teachers who are there in the medical colleges. It's mainly met by those who are working on the hardcore ground level psychiatrists who are doing the district mental health program or private practice, taluka level practice, visiting once in a week to various talukas, who are really seeing more patients than those sitting inside the medical colleges who see around 20, 30, 40 patients maximum, except some colleges who see 50, 100 and more than 100 colleges. Right. Regarding NAC, NABH, NAU, ethics, whatever committees, it's not specific to psychiatry. Most other departments also get involved in NAC, NABH. It's not the only psychiatrists who are getting involved and burdened with all those things. And regarding psychological aspects in medical cases, it's not only we are doing it. Most cases in the community, if you take the real strategy, and there are many studies which show that most general practitioners or the physicians treat most neurotic disorders in the periphery. It's not that all cases are coming only to the medical colleges. Right. And my friend expressed regarding stress in the first round, he said that it could add to that, add more stress to us. Well, we have been trained how to manage stress, how to manage our time in our curriculum. I believe that we have been taught so. And it is us who need to learn how to manage stress. And I think I cannot boast myself in working in a demand setup where I'm doing multiple work. Let me not share what all work I'm doing here, right from the group D to group A, everything work is being done in demands. No, and you should also know how much is enough to pull our strings and timeline our strategies. Coming to Guru Chela relationship, is it waning? Well, attitude and commitment really matters of each teacher. It's a duty and responsibility of every true teacher lies in the empowerment of every student into future potential better teachers. It's not the quantity, it's the quality of the teachers. Don't think about hiring ghost faculty. This warning has been there since last decade, but MCI has never been strict on those things. It is just making fun of the system, allowing such ghost faculty to enter. I have seen in my life faculty, I think, who may be seeing this assistant professor, they have reached the professor and HOD by being just ghost faculty, and they are running even PG departments. Right. So this has come in BMJ, British Medical Journal, in 2015. India's Medical Council reintroduces ID system to tackle ghost faculty problem in medical colleges. So who is actually promoting? Is it only private medical colleges? No. It's even government medical colleges recently, to my knowledge. Let me not name any medical college here. I think most people will be knowing about that. For giving incorrect information during inspections, penalty to be imposed on doctors. So it's the risk of the HOD or the principal or the dean or the director of the institute that if any person is found as a ghost faculty, they will be sued by the MCI. Medical College of Council of India moves to digital registry of faculty, gives deans login for counter approval for declaration forms. This is one of the strategies what MCI is trying to make, but still it has not succeeded in digital declaration forms. However, this is the lacuna which the ghost faculty minutes is still running in some of the colleges. Although it was rampant 10, 20 years back, but it still exists with a significant amount right now. Coming to ghost faculty minutes, that's why I begin with my debate with saying Manamanthana. Some medical colleges flourish with ghost faculty, including PG departments in psychiatry. It's quite appalling, very dismal. That some got even regular promotions from assistant to associate to professor and head, being ghost faculty throughout, coming just once in a month and saying that I have taken this much salary, that much salary, giving some amount of their salary out of whatever they receive, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh, back to the colleges in lakh money, right? Is this ethical? Is it justified? Is there any chance for introspection that are we doing justice to the medical education? Usually it is a professor or associate professor position, although rarely assistant professor who is also allowed as a ghost faculty. It really hinders motivation of full-time staff by stalling their promotions. A nexus rises if they get involved with the management, with negative remarks on the junior staff, thereby hampering subordinates promotion and securing one's position in power. Moreover, such nexus often includes financial transactions that ushers mutual benefit, including blackmail. All but not limited to above, in the long run has devastating effect on medical education, not only for UG, but also for PG training. Coming to the catching the ghost faculty advances, what my friend tried to address. Initially, they were doing biometric attendance. It was just a punching machine, which was supplied by the MCI. Where even the surrogate staff or group D staff, Aya, cleaner, sweeper, even they used to punch there and show that they are come. The faculty has come. This was how the private medical colleges or some of the colleges used to deceive MCI. Later on, RFID system was made. However, in RFID system, faculty used to leave the tag at the college or arrange someone to take care of it, to put it inside the college at this time and take it out of this college and they go out of that. Now later on, MCI got more clever and got this IBAS, which is Aadhaar enabled biometric attendance system. Again, there are loopholes. It cannot track that the same city ghost faculty. If the ghost faculty is there in the same city, like say for Bangalore, he comes just once in a week or 1 hour or 2 hours in a day and just says I am there teaching candidates and I've done my job. No, it's not just coming for 1 hour. You should be aware. One should be available for whole time, full time, from 9 to 4 or whatever, 9 to 5, whatever is the time is allotted to you, you need to be there. NMC needs to exercise iron hand on such menace and impose penal erasure on defaulters, as it is highly unethical and devastating to the medical education. Coming to ethics and accountability, there is a bumpy road ahead of our NMC. It says that heads of the department and heads of the makers shall be held accountable for any false and misleading declaration made by the faculties during MSA inspections. This document is again gazetted one. I have just taken the small part of that. Any false or wrong declaration done by the medical faculty, submission of wrong is.
Dr. Rangnath, yeah, couple of seconds.
I'll finish in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Private practice doing working hours, how ethical is it? Is it boon or curse to quality medical education? Even we have seen in many PG departments as well as UG departments where faculty do just 1 or 2 hours business in the college and move out of the college after 11 o'clock in the morning and do the private practice. So where is the quality medical education? And we say that there is less faculty. Is it justifiable? Private practice doing working hours, not a new scenario in medical colleges. Some colleges are strict with junior staff, but more relaxed with senior staff to do private practice. Availability during working hours can assure self-directed learning and integrated teaching as per the new NMC curriculum for UG training. Few colleges run activities with only junior staff, with the senior staff visiting only for namesake once in a week or month, thereby causing burden on the junior staff who need to maintain all OPD, IPD references, classes, and ongoing administrative issues. What after PG? My friend said, there is nothing, means after we need to give employment. Yes, I'm also for employment of all the PGs whom we teach, whom we learn. Is medical college only option for them? Is psychiatry saturating? No. Well, medical colleges are one amongst many other options and not the only option after PG. Other options being they can do DNB, especially after doing DPM. They can go for fellowships in child, geriatric addiction, rehab, etc. They can do DM, CAP, or geriatric addiction. They can go for private practice. Especially there is new area to explore, like team practice or group practice. They have same reverence of mind. Or go for telemedicine practice, rehabilitation services, de-addiction centers, DAV centers. Join some district mental program and earn 1.5 lakh per month. Or cover some taluka hospitals, or go for tier 2 cities. Or do from some freelancing between the villages or talukas. We need to have some patience as well as some hardware. Also, abroad is one of the option. So with this, I would like to hand over this to Dr. Kishore. Thank you, Kishore.
Yeah, the heat is on, and I think Dr. Rangnath has taken a couple of challenging questions. Dr. Anil, he is saying that it is not about quantity, quality, and he has raised serious concerns about ghost faculty. He says that it is not somebody else occupying the position. He says our brothers, the other psychiatrists who are sitting in the ghost faculty, he has raised some serious questions about their numbers, which I think you can take a call. So now each speaker will have just 1 or 2 minutes to conclude their opinion. In meantime, Dr. Rangnath, there are a couple of questions and comments for you. Dr. Anil, you will be giving your final comments.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yeah.
I think all of you would have enjoyed this movie. Ranganath also would have liked Munnabai MBBS. But then we cannot have this kind of doctors in reality. It looks only good in movies. You cannot argue for such things in real life. Ranganath's main argument, he said there is no problem with opportunity for psychiatrists. We are not talking about psychiatrists. They would have got enough opportunity. I am talking about doctors who are non-psychiatrists. So there are many surgeons and OBG specialists and say physicians. If they don't have psychiatry knowledge and they're not taught by the teachers, where will they go? Their knowledge is zero. So his argument of psychiatrists having even enough knowledge and enough scope is not there. I mean, doesn't hold good, because we are talking about general doctors. If an MBBS doctor didn't have a psychiatry teacher, then where will he go? In conclusion, I would say, by increasing seats, all the stakeholders would gain and the society would benefit. And I want to highlight, my opponent may have good experience and knowledge in PG teaching, but then he works in a PG institute. his experience with undergraduates is minimum, and probably there lies the problem. So I think at the end of this whole debate, Ranganath would have changed his mind and would agree with my point that we need to increase the teachers. We should all collectively work for improvement of mental health. Thank you.
That's a very crisp, Dr. Rangnath. Your final comments?
Yeah, just a sec. Yeah.
Dr. Anil says that you have changed. Have you changed your mind?
My friend, we don't need any Munna-bhais, Munna-bhai MBBS or Munna-bhai MD, Munna-bhai DMB, Munna-bhai DMs in psychiatry department. Please, we need quality medical education, not fake medical education. And the rebuttal to my friend, he said that I don't have enough UG experience. Let me remind him that he may not be knowing that I have been in UG college since 2006 to 2014. That is wrapping 9 years of undergraduate teaching, and being in a PG college since 2011. There is around another 9 years of PG.
Sir, your points are very valid, but please follow time limits.
Sure. I'm not able to see my slide. Just one sec. Attitudinal change necessary, then infrastructural. Too many cooks spoil the food. Currently, the time is not right enough to increase the staff strength. Teaching is a dynamic art, not taught, but learned better over repeated exposures over time. That is what we call as experience. PG departments can utilize final year PGs for classes with or without supervision by the staff, thereby instilling skill building for teaching since their inception into the medical college as a PG. Ghost faculty load colleges that fake load, and ghost faculty have been there. Ghost patients, ghost faculties, and ghost HODs are there. Salary payment by colleges, private or government, to account for increase in faculty more than minimum standards can be challenging. Attitudinal change is necessary than infrastructural or staff strength changes. NMC has laid minimum strength suffices, and if more load is needed, visiting faculty can join, or allied mental professionals, as my friend raised, we need to do therapy. Now, clinical psychologists and one clinical psychologist and 2 PSWs have been added by the NMC. They can be able to take that. Mental health needs attention in India, but as of today, the time is not right for it to be achieved through increase in faculty strength in psychiatry, but needs a better focus on proper utilization of existing faculty and ancillary staff, dedication and commitment towards medical education of existing staff, attitudinal changes in the organizational organogram, uniform provision of at least 30 beds, irrespective of number of seats of MBBS, and minimum faculty should be 4 and for 1 whole unit, so that in later, if you want to expand, there should be adequate breathing space for the building as well as the PG development. And we need to focus on allied mental health ancillary staff. With this, I would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity for playing against the statement what has been given for my debate.
Oh, this is an excellent debate. We never expected that for and against this very interesting topic will be so valuable in learning. I think Dr. Rangnath has surely stood for quality, and Dr. Anil has said quality comes from quantity. I personally think the representative from National Medical Council should have been here. I think that some of the people in the medical college management should have been here, and our colleagues, psychiatrists in various medical colleges should have listened to the debate. I personally think that the Indian Psychiatry Society and the Indian Medical Association should strongly look at the for and against, and more importantly, the public whom we serve. They are supposed to judge whether they need quality and quantity, whether we are matching with this, and all our services is meant for that. There are very interesting questions and a lot of comments from Sujay Rai, Deepak, then we have Dr. Manisha, Then we have Ranjan Bhattacharya. We have Mahesh M, who's been active, Sushma Inamdar, Dr. Sujay Roy, Dr. Vinay, Professor Mohan Isaac. Everybody is there. Unfortunately, because of lack of time, your comments and your questions cannot be taken, but there's a voting. I want all of you to vote, whether you vote for increasing the number or you want to vote against. Numbers are not required. I request everybody to vote for it. And many have said we need both quality and quantity at same time. And I think it is important for others to comment. I hope this polls are there. If in 1 or 2 minutes, if people can vote, we can conclude. Is voting visible to everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, can you please all vote and submit so that we can see it? Yeah, people are voting. Everybody, including for and against speakers, can vote. Make your vote count. Ashish, can you tell us how many people have voted?
37.
Oh, okay. What is the majority? What do they say?
1 minute, sir. I will just share the result.
So it's more like Kaun Banega Crorepati. Many people have voted. Oh, many people say there is need for increasing the faculty, but Dr. Rangnath Kulkarni has surely said we should stand for quality. I think it is an apt statement. It's a fantastic document. This video will serve as a mirror for all of us to go back and think. Dr. Anil, thank you so much for the stand you took. Dr. Rangnath, meticulous work, superb counter arguments, and you have really opened our eyes on many aspects we never knew. And thank you everybody for participating in this. It's an excellent program. It means we care for public, we care for the institution where we teach, we care for the profession what we stand for. With this, it's a wonderful opportunity. Thank you one and all. We have just crossed 8 o'clock, 15 minutes more, but I can see your enthusiasm. From my side, I have concluded. Over to you, Dr. Vijay.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
definitely a very well fought debate, and the whole idea of debate is to go broader over the topics, or understanding increases. And I think both of them have done wonderful job to help us throw more light on the points, why we should be arguing in favor or against the topic. And this is the way to go with regards to debates. Thank you very much. I think you've done very good preparation, both of you, Dr. Rangnath and Dr. Anil, with the short time that you got. Dr. Kishore, I'm sure people will agree with me that it was a very well conducted event. I think we need more of these events. Definitely, Manthan is here to stay. We need the poison that comes out of Manthan, as well as the Amrut in the end. So I think we had a wonderful time. We did have some poison in between, but in the end, we had Amrut. We gained and we enhanced our knowledge. With this, I hand over the session to for Sidrameshwar to conclude. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, participants. Without the participants, it's not possible at all. The most important thing, at some point, I saw 85 people, and I think about 100 at least may have registered in total. I thought so. 85
Yes.
at one point. It was highest in the recent times. Thank you very much, Mahesh. Thank you. Over to you. Over to you.
Dr. Vijay, that 37 out of 84 voted, and rest of all did not vote. Were they neutral or were they biased? I think are they still in the process of Manmanthan, or were they ghost faculty? Still
So
not.
they are afraid of you, Rangnath. They are very afraid of you.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you all.
Okay, so it's out for your own interpretation.
No,
So,
no,
Mr. Sidrameshwar, it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Sir, I request Mr. Partha Biswas to give the vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, on behalf of our entire Torrent Paribar, I, Sir Partha Biswas, thankful to all eminent dignitaries for attending and sharing their valuable information in our this Manthan series third program, sir. We sincerely thankful to our today's program moderator, Dr. Kishore M. sir, and our two very energetic and eminent faculty of Dr. Anil Kakunja, sir, and Dr. Ranganath Kulkarni, sir. And most importantly, we grateful to Dr. A. Jagdish, sir, Dr. Mahesh Gowda, sir, and Dr. Vijay Harbisetter, sir, for coordinating and directing the success of this our Manthan series program, sir. Thank you all. And once again, I request you please enhance your support and your blessing with us always. Thank you, doctors.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Dr. Kishore. Thanks, Dr. Ranganath.
Thank you very
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.